Oh yeah, so the outer fenders and the hood and the grill shell I'm going to use. The inner fenders were pretty bad. That one's kind of okay, but it's pretty rough. This one had a huge hole in it. I guess that one has a huge hole in it too, where the battery tray is. And then the rad support is pretty trash on the bottom. I mean, this side came out just fine, but this side was so dissolved. I mean, I couldn't even get a socket on this bolt, so I just broke it off. So here we are. Front clip is apart. Now I clean up and throw this garbage in the junk pile. Also, this radiator looks okay on this side, but these fins are so corroded that on the front-facing side, they are missing completely. They're all dissolved out. I'm surprised that the antifreeze was still green and there was no rust that I could see in the antifreeze. But other than that, I mean this radiator's garbage, and well, I'm curious to see how this engine looks when I tear it down. So I didn't document engine removal, but it's really simple. I'll talk about it in the next clip here. But looking at this engine, I came out really simple, especially the front clip removed. The 352 means it's an FE series engine, and the 1U on the crank means it's a 428 crank. So I ditched the C6, didn't want it. And upon further inspection, I noticed that the engine had a bunch of stuck valves and it had some bent push rods, as you can see in this clip here. So I decided I was just going to sell it, and I found a guy online who bought it for almost $1,000. I was going to have it as a tear down and rebuild video and do some explaining on the FEs, but I'm not a huge expert on those, so I decided just to call it quits on that. So we're going to stop here for a minute, and we're going to talk about where my project's going to diverge from the guy who's just wanting to put a Power Stroke or a 7.3 IDI or 6.9 IDI into one of these 6th gen F-Series trucks. Obviously, the guy who's just wanting to do a simple engine swap, they're going to want to mount the engine in the engine bay, and I'm going to be pushing this engine all the way into the cab to keep all the weight in the middle of the truck. So there's going to be some differences, obviously, in clearances and in engine mounting and crossmember placement. But aside from that, the clutch for the manual transmission and any wiring, getting the gauges to work, getting the engine actually run in the truck, all of that's going to be the same. So there's still some takeaways to have in regards to getting the engine running in your truck. But obviously getting the engine mounted in the truck is going to be different between my project and a different, some other guy's project. Now, my 73 has a frame swap, and so the engine will just drop in and bolt in because the frame is, engineered to accept that engine, because that was the engine that came with that frame or with that truck. And all I did in that case was I essentially made cab mounts and made some adapters and dropped a whole cab and bed onto that frame, and I have a video talking about that. With this project, I'm going to be taking a crossmember out of, and again, like a 7th or an 8th gen F-Series truck, and bolting it into this frame to stiffen it. Also, it makes a very stock crossmember with the stock motor mount, so bolting the engine in will just kind of an easier job for me. I felt that was the way to go. Talking about the guy who wants to just drop in a diesel engine into his 73 to 79 F-Series truck. So, as you can see in this picture, there's some horns that stick up out of the frame. Those are where the FE engine bolted to. I'm not sure what year Ford decided to change and started adding cross members or changing the whole frame horn shape, but I think it was like 76 or 77. That's when a lot of things started to change as far as like frame design, and I think the styling of the truck changed a little bit, so I think that kind of coincides with the change in the frame. So the early trucks are set up kind of like what you see in the picture. They've got a couple frame horns, and they have that big boxed cross member that goes across the front. Now, I wouldn't say for 100%, I'm not 100% certain on this one, but I believe that you will still have to notch out that cross member to clear your oil pan and your crank pulley. You definitely have to notch out the later model ones, because it runs, instead of running straight across, it runs kind of diagonally across, and there's not enough room for the oil pan and the crank pulley, so you have to just cut a notch out and box it in with some plate. I'd also say, if you're going to add a diesel engine into a frame like this, those horns, they add some rigidity to the frame where they bolt onto, but you're probably going to have to use different horns or make your own mounts to fit your engine, because I don't think that 460s were available back in 73 and 74 for the Fords, at least not stock. So if you have a 460 in your 6th gen, the engine will just bolt in, or that's what I've been told. At least the 460 motor mounts are the same with the 6.9 and 7.3 and the early 7.3 Power Stroke, so they should match up if you have a 460 truck and you're just pulling the 460 out. Well, I got the engine and trans out. They came out as one piece. I know I didn't show it, but there's only a couple of bolts. There's a bolt right here and a bolt right there for the motor mounts, and then there's two in the back for the transmission. You gotta undo your stubby drive shaft, and then throttle linkage, and that's about it. There's some ancillary wiring and vacuum lines and stuff too you gotta unplug, but I didn't take too much time taking everything apart and taking track of where everything went, because that's going away and this is going to live in there. Now y'all might be wondering, why in the heck did you cut so much out? Well, two things. One, I'm sticking my engine in here, but also this is all rotted out. I mean, there's holes over there, but I actually didn't cut that much. Yeah, I cut right along here, which is not saying much because this is pretty much dissolved, but the firewall was completely separated from here, and you can see that the lower part of the cowl is gone. So I honestly haven't cut out enough rust if we're talking about rust removal, but yeah, most of this just fell out. I did not cut that much. I mean, I cut a little bit on the trans tunnel, but that's it. The good news is these rocker panels don't seem to be trash at all. In fact, I think I might be able to just remove this crusty piece that they lay over the top and they weld in, and pull, maybe cut out right here and save some of this part of the floor, but redo all this. I think I might be able to get all this out, weld in a new piece. I don't know. I might just, I'm gonna have to do something, because I'm either gonna cut down all the way down here and have it screwed in and doghouse from here to here, or I gotta redo the floor. So I think I'm gonna redo the floor. Holy cow, today was a heck of a day. I got the old low pinion 44 out, and I swapped in a high pinion, let's see here, high pinion Dana 44, ball joint front end. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I might try and see if anyone wants to buy it. It's a globe style axle, but it's got drum brakes, and this thing's always in 4-wheel drive. You have to disconnect it at the transfer case, so not the greatest, I don't think. I think this is going to be a lot better. It's stronger. It's got the high pinion case. It also got, man, this took me 2 days to get ripped out of an F250. It's a pain in the butt to take one of these engine cross members out. Not only do they put in all these rivets here, all over this thing, but then they weld it to the frame. So you can't just grind off and knock these rivets out and you're home free. No, you gotta cut the frame out a little bit, and you gotta cut these welds out, and then you have to take a bar or some kind of spreading tool, and you gotta spread the frame open enough that this will pull out. In fact, I used a forklift to rip this thing out when I figured I had enough. But that's going to be the basis for my engine crossmember. Just a note, the F-150 crossmembers don't work. You have to get a crossmember out of a truck that came with the engine that you're looking to use.